big and bright, deep in the heart of
DailySignal.com, heritage.org. Well. So, yeah, I kind of got into the weeds on that, but nonetheless, that really stood out to me, and that really showed me that Donald Trump was going to have a great deal of success in the general election because he was speaking the language that a lot of Americans speak. Not what NBC News and CBS speak, but what a lot of Americans speak.
Well, Jamie, I think you're 100% right, and what's encouraging is that he's continuing to speak it after the election is over. I mean, anybody following what's going on, he's following through on promises. If you go to the transition website, you look at the positions he's taking on, whether it's health care or Dodd-Frank or any of these issues he talked about in the campaign, the policies continue to get better as we even look at the details, which is so rarely the case in this town. Usually when you start peeling things back and seeing what they really meant, you're not so encouraged. But I have to say I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing as the details begin to come out.
Yeah, and I think that really this whole Dodd-Frank thing is an important element, and the return of the community bank. And I think it might take a while, it might do this and that, but you've got a guy who understands the language of small business and the language of the smaller economy that we really need to get back moving again.
You're absolutely right. Look, I mean, and you put alongside that things like Obamacare. I mean, so many people who either have small businesses right now or people who want to start one. I mean, frankly, they've kind of been frozen from either expanding or starting in the first place because they look at what they're up against in terms of getting funding, like you just talked about with the community banks or the non-existent ones now, or how do what are all going to be these regulations and penalties I'm going to have to pay on employees? And basically, it's kept the economy from growing at the level it should be growing. So I'm excited to see what happens a year from now to kind of look at, okay, where are we on economic growth now, and where are we 2 years from now on that? Because I think if you start taking these regulations away and stop these penalizing people from trying to make a living, trying to make their communities better and have a business, I think it's going to be exciting what we're going to see.
Boy, I say too. It's interesting. Where did this thing come from about the transition team disarray? I've never, first of all, seen anyone more hyper-focused on a transition team than the news media, which apparently wants everything to happen in the next 24 hours. I don't understand that. That's kind of like the new thing, the transition team in disarray meme.
Yeah, well, they have apparently no history. I mean, like the whole thing about Pence taking over from Christie. I mean, look, I think number one, I think it's great news. I think that's exactly the kind of thing you want your number one running mate and vice presidential pick to be doing, is being a big part of putting your administration together. But number two, there's precedence for this. Cheney came in after the Bush administration and took over the transition team, and then as I mean, that's on an unprecedented kind of thing. And secondly, Donald Trump talked about, I'm not going to have an administration run by lobbyists and run by nothing but Washington insiders. And I think there were a few lobbyists on the transition team. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as long as they're doing the right thing. But I think Pence is coming in and really making sure the people in the positions and the people who are going to be in these positions are people who are going to do what Donald Trump talked about on the campaign trail. And so I'm encouraged by that. Look, the media is still in shell shock from last week, Jamie.
Yeah.
They got to have something to talk about. And, that's it. That's the bottom line. They're looking for things to punch at.
So yesterday, the possibility was broached that Ted Cruz would be named Attorney General.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm concerned about is that Ted Cruz is a U.S. Senator still. And so what happens then? So let's say he is named Attorney General. Do we lose a Senate? I mean, what happens then? Do we lose a Senate seat?
He'd have to get confirmed, and he probably would if he decided to do it. Then the governor of Texas would likely appoint somebody to be in that spot, and then they would run again in 2 years. But, when it's somebody like Ted Cruz, here's why I would like something like that. I mean, I think he's great in the Senate. But Texas is a place you're not going to get most likely a bad senator taking his spot. I mean, I don't know, Greg Abbott might appoint former Governor Rick Perry into that spot, right? I mean, there's a lot of good people in Texas you could appoint that would make very good senators. So I don't think we would lose anything in the Senate, and we would gain, I think, a very strong person in the AG. Some people have said, hey, maybe he's talking to him about a Supreme Court nominee. Who knows? But the thing is, I still think Ted Cruz probably wants to be president one day or would like another shot at it. That's tougher to do if you're on the Supreme Court, easier to do if you've held a cabinet position.
Right.
So I think it could be a very good spot for him.
Oh, I think so too. I think he'd make an excellent attorney general, and and that's interesting. You point out about the Supreme Court because I thought that was a sure thing. But if Ted Cruz has designs on the presidency, then that would be that would kind of lock him out, I guess. So. Yeah,
I mean, I guess you could jump off the Supreme Court and say, I want to come. You don't have to stay there, but
be the first time ever.
I'd love to see. I mean, it's a Ted Cruz on the Supreme Court. I would love that for so many reasons. Number one, clearly the guy gets the Constitution. He's committed to it. He knows it inside and out. But what that would do to the left, it would just send them bonkers over the edge. And I know that's not why you want to do things, but it would be a side benefit.
Well, and you know what? I'm comforted. Everybody's talking about the Donald Trump agenda or whatever. Trump has the midterms on his side here, and there are Democrats, and one of the states is this one here in Missouri, where Trump just rolled Democrats and Hillary in 10 states, and in those 10
how's Claire McCaskill doing? How's Claire feeling?
Yeah, right. I mean, we're one of 10 states where he performed hugely well, where Democrats have elections coming up in 2018, and so they're going to cooperate a little bit with Donald Trump and his administration.
Well,
you know that.
I would think so. I mean, you got senators up in Indiana, one in North Dakota, Joe Manchin over in West Virginia, as you just said, Claire McCaskill, Missouri. And you're right, there's 10 of those states. And, it's a year where Democrats have a lot more folks, not even just in the states, those 10 where Trump won, and they're up as well, but there are other states. I mean, more Democrats are up for re-election to Senate this time around than Republicans will be. So, look, I mean, that doesn't mean, a lot of presidents after the first 2 years in office, they, get a setback in the House, but nobody, I don't think, has had the record that Barack Obama has had, which is every single election that he's not been on the ballot, his party has just taken a huge hit. I mean, Jimmy, they have lost governorships, state legislatures, clearly the Senate. So, I mean, they've not been able to pick up. He's not been able to translate any of his charisma, charm, whatever it is that gets him elected when he runs to other people in his party. And that's why I think you're seeing so many headlines now about, it's supposed to be where's the future of the Republican Party, such demise and angst and so on. What a difference a week in an election makes.
Right on.
Now all those headlines are being written about the Democrats.
Well, it's Keith Ellison's party now, so we'll watch this whole thing roll out. All right, Genevieve.
Here we go.
Great talking to you. Heritage.org, dailysignal.com. Genevieve Wood, appreciate you as always.
Success